5+ years ago, I was an Apple fanboy, and you could not pay me to use an Android phone. I always bought the latest iPhone year after year, but eventually I did notice something. Wow, this is getting kind of boring. There were hardly any changes to iOS, and anytime Apple did bring something to iOS, they just took those ideas from jailbreaks, which of course I did back then to get more features because iPhones barely changed at all. It was around that time Samsung was announcing the S10 series of phones, and I did my reaction video to it. Yeah, please ignore the very professional thumbnail. It was in that video that I realized that Android was offering me something that I wanted this whole time as a lifelong Apple user, a kind of free and open experience. So what did I do? Well, I went out and I bought my actual first Android phone. I liked Android so much that I actually started making a ton of content on Android on Samsung, and eventually I got the eyes of Google looking at me, so Google emailed me. They were like, hey, try out our Pixel phones. So I was like, okay, heck yeah, why not? Because Pixel phones obviously offered a completely different experience to the Samsung phones, and I really liked it as well. Then a couple months later, I tried out my very first OnePlus device, and I loved its crazy smooth OS and its crazy features like the pop-out camera. Coming from an iPhone, all of these minor details, all these minor, sometimes even major hardware changes completely shocked me. Well, let's fast forward 5 years. What do I think of iOS compared to Android? During these 5 years, I've used countless Android devices, and I've also used iPhones as well, so I'm very familiar with each operating system. Now, if you've been using Android for your entire life, this will be nothing new to you. You already know this, and you actually take it for granted, because as iPhone users, we didn't know any of this stuff. Like, all of this was completely new to us, and it's still completely new to me even till this day. For example, like the simple thing as showing your notifications on your status bar. Seriously, that one small thing even impresses me till this day, because on iPhones we just don't have that. We don't have that luxury of just having a quick glance and seeing which notifications came in, which ones should we respond to, which ones should we save for later. It's so annoying how iPhone doesn't have this. Not only does it save time because I don't have to go into my notification shade like I do with iPhone, but also there's been many instances where I'm busy doing something on my phone, I get a notification and I tell myself I'll respond to it soon, and then after I'm done being busy on my phone, I completely forget to respond to it because I don't have that actual, like, in real life visibility of that, like, notification still being there. Now, since Android is all about freedom, you have the ability to actually change how those notifications show on your status bar. In the case of Xiaomi, you can show 1, 3, or none at all. In the case of OnePlus, you can show the icons, you can show the number, or nothing at all. And in the case of Samsung, you can show all notifications, the 3 most recent, the number of notifications, or of course, none at all. There is seriously a setting that's out there for everyone. Remember how earlier I said that Android gives you that optimized experience? Well, another example of that is something as simple as auto captioning. So go ahead and picture this. You're laying in bed next to someone that's sleeping, or maybe you have a sleeping baby, you don't want to wake them, but you also want to see the video that you're watching. You want to actually be able to understand it and not just look at it with mute, right? Because you don't want to put the volume up too high. Well, with Android, you just click the button and boom, you have auto captioning. And you can even translate it into a handful of other languages, with others being added in the near future. I also love how on Android you get to choose which software and hardware experience you want. So, for example, if you are using Samsung but you're kind of tired of it, but you don't want to leave Android, you like it too much, well, not to worry, because you have Xiaomi, you have Redmi, you have OnePlus, Pixel, Huawei, Sony, Oppo, Motorola, and so many other brands to choose from. See, the competition isn't really iOS versus Android, it is iOS versus Android versus Android versus Android. Because not only is iOS competing with Android to get the Android users to move to iOS, but Android is also competing with Android, because if Samsung loses you as a customer, you may not go to iPhone, you may go to their next competition, for example, the Pixel or the OnePlus. But in the case of Apple, let's say, for example, you have the iPhone 14 Pro, but you're getting kind of tired of it, you want to try something new, but you don't want to leave iOS. What other options do you have? None. None at all. I also love how on Android you just get more customizations for small things like taking photos or videos. You have different modes such as Pro Mode, the ability to perfectly dial in how you want your photo or video to look like, or even things like dual recording on Samsung and other phones, which lets you record from the rear and front facing camera simultaneously, which is obviously super helpful for vlogging. And if you want to change your camera settings, you don't have to leave the app like you do on iPhone. The camera settings are built into the camera app on Android. Why? Because it makes sense. But with iPhone, you have to leave the camera app, open up settings on your phone, scroll down, find camera, click on it, and then you can change whatever setting you want, like for example, HDR, or if you want to record in 265 or 264. I don't know why the simplest of things require so many taps on iPhone. You know, people say that iOS is so simple and easy to use, but is it really? I mean, that doesn't really sound too intuitive. Now moving on to widgets. Apple finally, of course, allowed widgets on iPhone, and why couldn't they make it easy? I swear, it's like anytime Apple adds a feature, they always add the Apple touch to it, if you know what I mean. For example, on Android, if you want to resize a widget, all you do is just hold down on it and you can resize it to however you want. But with iPhone, you have a set number of different sizes. If you place the one you want, but you realize you want it to be just a little bit bigger, you have to first delete that widget, find it again, and then find the bigger one, and then place it onto your home screen. Again, Apple, why does this need to be such a multi-step process? Why can't we just click on the widget and then just drag it to make it bigger? I mean, the simplest of things is so hard. Not hard, but just so not intuitive on iPhone. Oh, and that app library, by the way, horrible. I don't know who in Apple thought this was a great idea. I never use it. I never even found a use case for it, honestly, because anytime I want to find an application that I have, I just simply slide down and use the universal search. I just type in the first couple letters of the app and it pops up. That's it. It's easy. The app library doesn't even let you rename the folders or add your own folders. That has got to be the dumbest thing ever. Why can't we just customize our own folders in our own phones that we paid our own money for? I don't know. Why? Better yet, why not let us have an app screen? It's similar to the app library, but here you can at least see all the apps you have on your phone and they're not hidden in folders. You can even customize the app screen based on different operating systems of Android phones. So on Xiaomi, for example, the app screen shows all your apps, but up top there are folders with different categories. And since Android is about freedom, you can customize those folders to add and take away apps you want. But that's not all. You can even group your apps by color, and you can even adjust the background color and transparency. Because why not? It's your phone. You should be able to do kind of what you want. So let's go ahead and talk about security, but more specifically app security. If you're an iPhone user, I know for a fact there's been one time in your life at least when you thought to yourself, gee, I really wish I could lock that one app from other people. Can you do it? No. Why? Don't know. It seems like a very basic thing to have in your phone, a very kind of important security feature, but iPhones don't have it. Well, you can on Android, and it gets even better depending on the brand that you choose. So for example, on OnePlus, you can lock any app you want behind your fingerprint or face unlock. With Samsung, you have your own private folder which lets you store apps, documents, photos, and videos, and that too is locked between your passwords. But with Xiaomi and other brands, it takes it to a whole new level. Xiaomi doesn't let you lock apps, or Xiaomi doesn't have a secure folder. What Xiaomi has, and other brands, is a completely different phone. Not even kidding. So for example, if you unlock your phone with your right thumb, it will unlock into your normal day-to-day phone. But if you unlock your phone with your left thumb, it will open to a completely different setup. Everything here is different. You have different apps, different information, and if you take a photo in that second space, it stays in that second space. It is quite literally like having two phones in one. Those security features aren't only cool, but they're also kind of necessary and, again, kind of obvious. Like, why shouldn't we be able to lock any app we want on iPhones? Why is something so simple missing from iPhones? Imagine you're an iPhone user and, you try to unlock your phone, but Face ID kind of bugs out every now and then. So you type in your password, but someone sitting next to you clearly sees your password. Good job. Now they have they basically have your entire phone, minus a few banking applications which require a password every single time you open up the app, but your photo library, your text messages, your contacts, everything's open. Another thing I love about Android is the ability to sideload any app you want that's not in the Google Play Store. Now this has been a thing for as long as I can remember, honestly, and recently, thanks to the EU, Apple will finally let you sideload apps. But only in the EU. Apple, bring it to the whole world. Why can't people choose to download what they want to download on their phone that they paid their money for? Well, the answer is simple, because Apple's gonna lose money, duh. Now, I don't know if you know this, but anytime you make a purchase on the App Store, Apple gets 30% That's quite a bit if you multiply that by over 1 billion iPhone users. So of course, Apple's main goal is to keep you locked into the App Store so they make more money. And that doesn't really seem too, how do I put this? Consumer friendly. Now look, don't get me wrong, of course iPhone is an amazing phone. It has a lot of benefits to it, like AirDrop, AirTime, AirDrop, AirPlay, FaceTime, iMessage, and of course the ability for all Apple devices to speak to one another flawlessly. Well, when I say flawlessly, I mean when it actually works flawlessly. Recently my AirDrop sometimes work, sometimes doesn't. Sometimes when I AirPlay to my Apple TV, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So even that is barely flawless. But of course, the ecosystem is not exclusive to iPhone. I don't know why people say, oh, the Apple ecosystem, the Apple ecosystem. Many companies have ecosystems. If you have a Samsung phone with a Samsung Galaxy Watch, a Samsung tablet, a Samsung TV, even a Samsung dishwasher, all of them speak to one another just like it does on the Apple ecosystem. OnePlus has their ecosystem, Xiaomi has their ecosystem, Google Pixel has their ecosystem. All these companies have their own ecosystem, and of course, their devices work perfectly with one another because, well, they're made by the same company. So I never really got the argument that the Apple ecosystem. Just, I don't get it. All companies have ecosystems. iOS has definitely improved over the years, 100%. I'm not doubting that simple fact. But it still seems like Apple gives you features, but then they limit those features that they give you. Like, for example, again, the simple thing of resizing your widgets. Why can't that just be a little swipe? Why do I have to delete it, find it again, find the one I want, and then place it? So many things. Android is improving faster and faster, giving us the consumers more freedom and more helpful features, and the reason why is simple. Android is more competitive against Android than iOS is to iOS, because Apple just hopes that their AirPods and iPads and MacBooks all keep you locked into the Apple ecosystem. I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, I really appreciate you guys leaving this video a like. It is absolutely free to you, but it helps me and the channel out a lot, and I always truly appreciate it. And if you are new here, hey, consider subscribing. I do a lot of tech reviews, tech videos, and no BS talks. So that's it. This was Mark from Mark's Tech. Adios.